I just don't think that escapism really has anything to do with it anymore. At least I don't feel like that when I'm out at a club or at a rave or something, because the kind of crowds I like to be involved with, it feels like very much like rebellion and an expression of true unity and freedom. And that's really the goal. If that shit didn't exist or wasn't accessible to me, I wouldn't play music out at all. You know, I would just stay home in my comfortable bed and make beats all the time.
For today's show, we're actually traveling across the United States, all the way to Maine, where we're going to meet up with DJ Molkromatic and discuss the EDM scene in the Northeast.
This is Graham with Moshplay Live.
And I'm Veronica. Thank you for playing along.
Join the culture realm at moshplaylive.com.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Excited to be here.
So first off, could you help us set the scene where it's like in Maine right now with the whole, the electronic scene, the music scene? What's going on? This is primarily Southern Maine we're looking at right now.
So I'm in Western Maine, but everything's mostly happening down in Southern Maine. Aside from a few rare pop-up places here and there. But yeah, so down here, it's a lot of heavy music, a lot of experimental music. The electronic music scene isn't super flourishing, but it's changed in the last couple years. There's been an electronic music scene established there for a long time. Clubs like the Flask and other clubs that have came and went, and but there's been more of a resurgence of like techno specific DJs popping up in Portland and other areas like that, and it's really cool, man. I come from like the punk scene, and I'm like a punk to techno pipeline person. So it's really cool. I've been doing this collectively, different projects for like 10 years now, and being a part of the Portland scene. So it's really cool to see how it's developed and flourished, and lots of really cool venues out there, lots of cool people.
Moshplay Live actually started up in northern Maine, and where there's not quite the metal scene. Maine is pretty much two separate countries for sure, the northern half and the southern half. But over the years, I've definitely seen the music scene grow, and especially down in the Portland area and stuff. I used to go down here and catch the metal shows and stuff like that every once in a while. But that whole little branch of New England, actually, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and everything, and Portland's kind of a really close area. Is there like a circuit that goes up around through there for the DJs, to different DJs in the area to play or anything that you do? Or
there's not a lot going on close to where I'm at. There is the festival circuit which comes up north sometimes, but I haven't broken into that quite yet. Festival organizers hit me up. I will definitely do that. But out down in Portland, the club I frequent the most is a little DIY spot called the Podium.
Okay.
And it's home to a lot of different artists doing a lot of different things. That place has always been close to my heart and kind of feels like home. There's the Flask Lounge, which is kind of like a little awesome little living room rave spot. Really cool, tiny club down there in Portland. I like to hit there once in a while, but there's not a lot of places to play. I was happy to do a hardware set recently, hardware just like playing synthesizers instead of DJing. I did a set like that down in Blue Hill recently, which I've never been to that area, but really cool spot. Some DIY musicians down there propped up in a barn for the night and hosted us. And that was really cool. So really for me, the biggest reward is to play in places like that, rare little spots, preferably outside of Portland, just because it's a small town and it can get pretty congested out there. And it's cool to branch out and play super random spots, basically.
Yeah, we have that here on the Big Island. We're kind of in a unique spot. Most of the venues here that we go see shows at, it's mostly local. We occasionally get some acts from some performers from the West Coast and stuff will come over and play while on vacation and stuff. So it's kind of cool. But a lot of our venues are in these tucked away little spots I
Yeah.
say in the jungles, or there's a Kukuau studio here down the street from us. Actually, it's a little psychedelic venue that's a really cool place. Everybody loves to come to. Once you walk into the place, you're just like blown away. The artwork on the inside and just the vibe of the place. It makes a place where you want to go see a show, and that's where, for a cheap plug for the day, that's where we're promoting our first show out here on November 1st. So, and we specifically chose that venue just because, we want people to come check out this cool, unique place, and it makes a very intimate, fun setting. And that, we've really grown to appreciate that over here. I don't really miss too much going to big arenas or big concerts anymore. It's kind of like, I enjoy like catching the local
Um,
scene. I
a lot of
really
the
do.
DJs, especially those who play similar styles of music, end up congregating. There's multiple collectives out here. There's a Silverfish collective who puts on an awesome party called Gush, which I have the privilege of playing here and there. And I'm lucky to be a part of a cool collective called Real Computer People. We're all based out here in Oxford County, but we function out in Portland, doing shows and whatnot. And so having collectives involved offers a lot of support within the community. Having large groups of people that are all mutually supporting each other, and then the outsiders, the people listening, have a real good time, and basically just promote each other's music and all that. And
Nice.
I've been lucky enough to reach a little bit of an international audience via YouTube.
Very cool.
Uh, Shout out to Cosmo, and shout out to UK Funky some homies on YouTube from Europe that are putting my stuff up. Basically, whenever I
Nice.
send it to them, awesome people. And so it's cool, seeing comments and stuff on YouTube in different languages, or you know, you can
That
tell when it's like you can
we
tell
actually
when it's
have a
someone from the UK or something. But
I'd say we have a couple fans slash family over in the UK too, so it's kind of cool to be able
oh,
to
sweet.
start hitting that little bit of reach. You're like, oh wow, I actually got people. We had Poland and a few other places, odd places, just pop up, and it's like it's very cool to know that your stuff's getting kind of out there. It is a sense of accomplishment to be able to do something like that. So no, that is very cool.
I do have a
Your
quick
music,
question for you, though, if you don't mind.
go ahead.
I'm curious about your audience. Do you have all ages audience? So do you have venues that have children that come to your shows or no?
No, the shows I usually play normally are 21 plus, because rave culture um tends to um be about staying up all night and possibly using certain
Things.
substances. And
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on here, but
You're
If
allowed
anything,
to.
we'd edit it out. Yeah, you're good. We've heard worse.
but so no, typically I play 21 plus shows. Once in a while there'll be a hardware show or something when I'm doing like more synth work. Um, I'll do I'll I'll play like all ages shows or community events. Like I played right in downtown Rumford one time.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
yeah, as far as young kids go, I can tell you that they do love techno. That if I'm at like a fair or somewhere that's unusual for me and there's little children around, they are usually way into it more than anyone else, which is
They-
awesome, because I guess at that age you don't need lyrics or whatever. You can, just a good beat gets them excited. So that's what I'll say about that.
let's talk
We
about your
were
music real quick. I took some time out, listened to your tracks. I gotta double check my notes here. One thing I noticed, different vibes on different tracks. I listened to Bolt Communications #2, which seemed kind of more funky based, but you have a new one you just released called Temples.
Yes, sir.
I correct, it just came out in September, and I took a listen to that, and I definitely had it sounded like it had a different sound to it. So what kind of goes into your creative process when you're making all this music?
I guess it's at random. I mean, every time I hook up the synthesizers, I might hook them up differently, might be in a different mood that day. woke up feeling one way or the other. Um, or some of that stuff that I produce is stuff that I made specifically for live sets and they've stuck, so I released it. So it really all depends. It's kind of hard to go into my process because I don't really know. It just kind of happens.
I'm getting used to electronic music, so I'm not. It's not like my expert level. So I'm curious on how song titles and the song actually kind of come together. So if you have a song that says that's titled like "I Love You" because all the lyrics say "I love you, I love you."
Right.
How does your sound transfer to the song title? I'm kind of curious. Is it a mood thing? Is it like a headspace thing when you're putting it together, or can you explain that a little bit?
Headspace thing, or maybe it's a reference to the context of the way I made the track. I do a lot of sampling, and sometimes things will be named based off the context of the sample or something. Or sometimes I just put together song titles and aesthetics based purely on the feeling of the music. Um, I just end up basically my process is kind of like I make music and then I just end up with all these files in a folder and listen back to them and figure out how I can work them into a release together. And usually the sounds that I already have established will inspire the direction that I take on the aesthetic or the song titles or album title or whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely,
So kind of
absolutely.
like it's mostly all done in retrospect.
Hmm. Okay. So rather than the heat of the moment, you wait back and you go through everything and just kind of mix. That's kind of cool though. That's right. It's still something a little different then. Do you have a favorite piece of like tech or hardware that you use during your recordings?
My main pieces that I use in pretty much all my productions um, are a Roland TR8, the OG model, and then a Korg ES1 Electribe sampler. And those two are really at the core of my sound. And then I have some other pieces that I'll throw in depending on how I feel that day, like the TD 303, which is the classic 90s acid bass sound. Um, Based off the Roland TB 303, legendary instrument, and that's what I make all my acid stuff with. And then I recently got a Soma Roat, which is this tiny little box that makes just four-step sequences of beep sounds, basically, and you modulate and play with it and get all kinds of like hypnotic loops out of it. But yeah, those two that I stated before are definitely my go-to for everything.
Nice. Um, any influences?
For sure, Midwest music is the main inspiration behind Molkromatic. Detroit techno, Chicago house, Detroit ghetto tech, electro, a lot of stuff that came out of that area and that whole culture that happened in the 90s is in the 80s and whatnot is a massive inspiration to me. And then of course also just non techno stuff like punk rock, hardcore metal, noise music, experimental,
Hmm.
90s hip hop, funk, soul, lots of stuff, disco,
Oh,
all that.
nice. I'm a big fan of the funk and the disco. So
Yeah, yeah. Do you mind me asking you also what your favorite like heavy band is or favorite hardcore punk band?
okay, I can go with my favorite. Let's start off with my favorite. I'll go with metal. I'm a huge Guar fan. I've seen Guar like 30 plus times over the
Oh,
years,
right
and
on.
so we've both been sacrificed on stage, and freaking I've been covered in hundreds of gallons of fluids over the years that it makes me go to my happy place, man. It really does. But then, you know what? After I listen to Guar, I could sit there and go turn on the Grateful Dead and go enjoy it and stuff. You say you're a punk into the techno. I'm the heavy metal hippie, so I
Yeah.
always like the heavy metal and the hippie music for balance. Punk, my favorite band's probably Bad Religion. I love Bad. I've seen Bad Religion a couple of times over the years, long time ago, and just amazing artists. But here on the Big Island, we just saw Stalag 13. And I tell you what, man, that was like old school punk show that it was right down the street from us. Dudes were cool. Met a bunch of the other bands. Terminally Ill was another one from Southern California. The Hajj, just really cool guys. Different vibes of you think punk, you like think like three chords. We had four different bands on that bill, and like each band had its own unique punk sound to it. Their
Oh
own
yeah.
take on.
Just wanted to throw out there that had an opportunity to go to Guar when I was like 11, but my mom wouldn't let me. My brother was going, and I wasn't allowed to go, and she wasn't there to chaperone. And so I missed out on Guar and Horse the Band, which is like one of my favorite metal
I
bands.
saw that show. That was up in 207 Club in Bangor.
Oh, no shit,
I
man.
went to
Wow.
that show. That's like the show I talk about. I'm like, that was the craziest. I have seen Guar in three different countries and like seven different states. I can honestly say that. That show in Bangor was the most insane Guar show I have ever been to. We were
Nice.
elbows to assholes. That place is so small. It's in the back of a restaurant. I swear to God, they're like, yeah, it's behind the restaurant. I'm like, okay. We get in there and it's like you can't move. There was no barricade. The stage was like 6 inches up off the ground. A band called Horse, right? I get that because I keep getting confused with Horse the band. But it's a band called Horse.
No,
It's
it was Horse the Band.
it is
Horse
Horse
the
the
Band
band.
was.
Okay.
I think
Nintendo death
so.
metal is what I got out of it because it sounded like
Yeah, yeah.
Nintendo music, and all of a sudden, I was like, "Holy
Yeah,
shit!"
major early influence for me
Oh,
for
very cool.
music in
Yeah,
general.
I don't know
Yeah.
how many people have checked those guys out over the years, but I know they don't put out a whole lot of albums.
Yep.
Recently they had one out a few years ago, but anytime I can catch and hear them, man, I tell people you got to catch these dudes because they put on such a show at Guar. I've always thought Guar has always done an excellent job with their bringing on support acts. I've seen a ton of killer support acts, that opened up for them over the years, and that was definitely a show. I remember Dave Brocky when he came up on stage, like it was wall to wall people. You couldn't move. And it was on I think it was the Beyond Hell tour. And he's like, we are truly in hell because there was like nothing blocking people coming up in this like little freaking stage. There was like,
Nice.
it was, you were like, I don't even think they couldn't even do their quarter of their stage show because it was on this tight little packed house. And amazing. Just freaking blew it away.
That's awesome.
And that was cool. That was like one of the best shows I've seen
My
in
heart
Maine. I've
is kind of in
seen
Western Mass. So, what are some of the places that you've played in Western Massachusetts?
Oh, so there's some awesome crews down in Northampton. Um, I've been lucky enough to play what was it, 10 Forward down there, and what's the name of that town too? I just know it's Western Mass.
Okay.
I kind of am always riding around when I'm over there, so I kind of forget which town I'm in when I'm in Western Mass.
And they
Yep,
kind of all join together too.
They blend together in a
Yeah.
little bit, but
they do.
the 10 Forward's an awesome venue out there. I got to play in Holyoke one night at the Rat Trap.
Oh, that's beautiful there.
Really, really cool little venue inside a warehouse. They do mostly heavy music there, pretty dedicated to heavy music. I think it was like the first time a DJs ever pulled up, and it was awesome. It was like truly unruly vibes in there. Lots of cigarette smoke in the hallway. Good
Old
times.
school.
Yeah, old school. It felt very old school. It's always cool to pull up in places like that. Um, but then on that tour, we went to a little spot in Boston, Mass. Um, I don't think I should say the name of it just
Cool.
to keep things underground.
Yep.
But Massachusetts, what I can tell you is Massachusetts as a whole has some really cool nook and crannies. And if you can have the privilege to play in there, as some of those, it's a true blessing. Unique opportunities out there.
You,
Actually, and we should really mention that the underground scene is sometimes some of the best. I
Oh
have
yeah,
found that anything that's even pop up, when I went to the small business conference in Las Vegas, they were saying the same thing. They talk to restaurants and places like that. They reserve it for the night, pack people in, and it's just a one time, you'll never see this again. those, I think some of those are the best shows I've ever been to.
Oh, absolutely. Those are awesome.
Um,
Trying to think. Also,
okay.
Vermont's also a good time. Radio Bean, shout out to the Radio Bean crew. Shout out to Zach from Burlington Electronic Department. Um, some really cool folks out here in New England doing really cool stuff. For those New Englanders who might be watching that are very bored, there's a lot of cool stuff to check out. You just got to find out where it's at.
How do they find that scene when they, I mean, a lot of times it's like your insiders know and they
Yeah.
wonder how to become an insider. So how does someone become an insider to the underground?
I mean, that's a that's a tough
That's a
question.
tough
I
question.
mean, I got inside strictly through my work. It was never really I guess as far as what I consider the underground, it was never really apparent to me until I started playing music. And also a few like really deep Instagram dives into like local promoters and artists and keeping up on artists and supporting and keeping that kind of shit in your algorithm uh is definitely gonna help. Um but yeah, it's hard to say whether or not there's an underground in Maine, but you know, things
Oh, there's
come
got
and
to be.
go, things pop up, and I'm
Well,
going actually
Maine.
going to a black metal show this weekend at a house in some town. My buddy does a synth punk project called Goiter, and I'm gonna be carpooling with him to a black metal show at a house this weekend. So I'll let you know how that goes.
Very
Nice.
cool.
Nice, nice.
There's a like I really like finding the nooks and crannies in like little tiny towns. Like surprisingly, Farmington, Maine has some
Oh, yeah.
action going on out there. Not really electronic stuff unless you count like some of the festival stuff going on out there, but um there's like punk bands like shout out to the Goblins,
Mm.
young punk band out in Farmington putting on DIY shows. Shout out to Lou, my friend Lou. Beffy Strens is their project name. Um, they put on shows down there in Farmington once in a while. I had the pleasure of going to one of those shows. It was a church show. It was like the hardest pit I've seen in a long time.
Awesome.
So
That's
and I
really
try
cool.
to stay open to all styles of music. I mean, really, if it's some kind of random scene that just pops up in the middle of nowhere, I'm gonna be obsessed with it, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
So a quick
Have you ever like ran into something you went to something you weren't expecting, then it helped influence any of your music? Like a certain
Oh
style?
yeah, yeah, probably. I mean, I've carpooled to a lot of DIY shows, played a lot of DIY shows, seen a lot of music I wasn't expecting. Um, I guess a good example actually is when I went to Freiburg Fair when I was a kid,
Hmm.
and there was a dude playing congos and hand drums with a line of belly dancers, and that has probably stuck with me for my entire life.
That,
So,
that's that's funny. If you look behind us, I got a whole bunch of vinyl back here. I sell vinyl, and we definitely have belly dancing music and stuff here in our
oh,
vinyl
nice,
collection. Yeah.
cool, cool.
Just that we like all sorts of different styles too, and that's one of them actually that I think Veronica actually picked that one up a couple years back and stuff. Yeah. So who does the artwork for
Oh,
your?
that's me. Yeah,
That's you.
so
Okay.
I do pretty much everything except with some help from my homie Brad, who masters my music
Okay.
here and there. But for the most part, it's all me.
How long does it take you to when you first put together a song? I know usually a lot of them are like three and a half, anywhere up to, I think I saw one that was about 7 minutes long. Is there like a longer extended version down there you originally had that you end up cutting it down to try to fit a certain time length, or do you have a certain time length you have in mind when you're like putting together your songs for, with the crowd in mind, that they're going to be dancing and raving to and all that stuff?
Um, yeah, so I often end up with like sometimes stuff like original recordings are like a half hour long. or however long, and I trimmed them down to like a listenable song length or whatever I think is enough time for the track to breathe. But I basically just record straight into Audacity from my gear, and then I trimmed that down and edit it. So it's mostly like straight live, but not really. It's
Mhm.
like, I get these long jams where I'm just experimenting and trying shit out, and then I kind of cut them down into parts.
Nice. So, what's it like from your perspective? I hope I'm using the right term. So, when you're in the booth DJing and stuff and playing to the crowd, like, what do you see, or what do you feel from your perspective? You like focused on your instruments? Are you checking out the crowd? Is it kind of a mixture of everything, or kind of
Well,
what's
I
going
can
on in your
tell.
head?
I can tell you, I have a bit of a hard time staying focused. Um, and So I'm mostly up there just trying to lock in as much as possible. I don't look up very often, um, just because I can't. Um, and if I do, I might accidentally transcend that wall and kind of be a part of the party for a little too long. And the next thing I know, the track's about to end and I have to sync up the next one. Um, so from my perspective, I'm just like trying to trying to just keep it together, really. Um, Eventually, the goal of any DJ, because I'm a novice DJ. I've only been at it for a couple years, and I don't use any pro gear. I can't afford pro gear. So I'm still using like my DJ controller and just doing the best I can. But the I think the goal of any DJ is to read the crowd as best as possible. But my attention span doesn't really allow that. So I just kind of come prepared to what I think the audience is going to be expecting or looking forward to hearing. So that's the best I can do.
Oh, cool. Thank you for that perspective. It's like I say, we're usually more rock and roll stuff, so it's kind of a lot of similarities between artists and stuff. Sometimes a little different on the focus and stuff. You're locked into your machine. No, I guess though for musicians, rock and rollers, I guess it's the same thing. Some guys could sit there and play to their crowd. Other ones kind of want to sit back and do the rhythm section or whatever and kind of hide in the shadows and play. So, thank you for that. That was that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, an OG DJ will tell you that. Will tell you a lot of things, and such as, yeah, the main focus of a DJ should be to read the audience. I think a lot of DJs might um, look down upon some DJs that like come with a prepared set, but
Hmm.
it is what it is. As long as the people are dancing, you're dancing. But yeah, the goal is to just do it all based off purely the energy in the room, and that's what people will tell you.
That's cool. Actually, since we're talking about that with the other DJ, is there like unwritten laws or anything you have to follow when you're doing show with multiple DJs or anything like that?
Yeah, there is. There's a lot of things I could respond to that with. Um, But yeah, the main focus is to just like whether or not you're borrowing gear or you have your own gear set up, is that you're not playing over your set time in consideration for the other DJ. Um, and really, that's about it. I mean, some DJs will look upon others for doing shit like use a sync button, or do some non-traditional methods that might make it easier than it used to be during the age of like manual sync CDJs and vinyl turntables and shit. But whenever I hear those kind of debates, I'm just like, who fucking cares, man? Because it's just like, and you have good tracks, you have good flow. Who gives a shit about how you're mixing it? And if your audio quality is a little fucked up because you're using a DJ controller or whatever, as long as people are dancing, just have a good time. To me, that should be the only mission of a DJ right there. Um, so any other like etiquette, it's really just like be respectful to each other's gear, be considerate of each other's set times. And then if we're talking about an audience, the best thing I can recommend to anybody is unless you're at a wedding or something where someone's clearly there to take requests, do not talk to the DJ or bother them whatsoever while they're doing their job.
Fair enough.
We need to find out where to find you.
So I'm on Instagram as Molkromatic, Molkromatic. Same with Bandcamp, SoundCloud, YouTube. I try to cross post stuff as much as possible. I do have a Facebook, but it's barren. I feel like Instagram for people within my community seems to be the main connector. That's where I post most. So if you're an Instagram person, you can check out a lot of my stuff on there. If you're a Facebook person, I'll see you once in a while.
What's going on in the world, your age group and music and everything? I mean, there's a whole lot of chaos and craziness going on in the world. With your generation, your peers and everything, how's it all going with, I mean, does music make it all go away, or is it kind of, how's everybody dealing with stuff right now?
Well, there is a lot of world tension being expressed through music right now amongst artists I know that operate on a lesser known level. Like there's a lot of expression, lots of people chiming in on Palestine and different things going on in the world. I've heard a lot of tunes about COVID. I've seen a lot of projects pop up because of COVID.
Hmm.
Since 2020, just I do feel like there's a lot of deep expression happening within underground music, especially in Maine. You can find it all over the place. We put out a fundraiser compilation for aid in Palestine recently. You can find that at goiter666.bandcamp.com. We're still taking funds for it. So we try to be as proactive as possible. I don't express a lot of political opinions within my music, but I'm always down to be a part of compilations and stuff like that is supporting like world issues. And yeah, I think there's a lot of collective pain going on right now in the world and a lot of confusion too. And I've seen some bands beef over differences of political opinion and whatnot, which in the long term is pretty good. In my opinion, that we're expressing ourselves freely through our art and having open conversations about that, especially when we don't agree with each other on shit. So yeah, I think we're doing the best we can do, and what that is make music about the shit that's going on because um, that's how we tap into collective consciousness, and that's how we share energy with each other and unify. And to me, especially when it comes to raving, I don't really think it's an escapist thing. I think it's like people think of raving especially as like this drugged out escapist communion that doesn't really have much to do with anything except for just getting lost. But I actually don't agree. I think that there's a lot of pain that's being expressed on the dance floor through dance. And I think that anytime we're all in a room together and we're celebrating life, I think that in itself is rebellion.
The
Thank you for that.
celebration of togetherness is all about the rave. I mean, you'll never experience that moment again either. It's that one time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And anytime we unify, it's a rebellion against the separation that's constantly being pushed on us. So,
Yeah, music is the one thing in the world that makes everybody freaking unite. So
yeah,
it's a beautiful thing. It really is.
And oddly enough, it spans generations too. In fact, music from the 1930s still has the same feel. It's just expressed differently. So that was the whole point, and it will be the whole point of joining together.
Yeah, and there's always been invisible politics involved in dance music since the beginning. I want to make that clear too, that there was political drive when the techno scene developed in Detroit. There was political drive, especially when the Berlin Wall fell and
Mhm.
acid house blew up in Britain. I think that dance music has always been a way for people to reclaim their environments.
Actually, on a kind of sort of off note, but on in regards to music, we've been to a few heavy metal shows with the electronic music. We're huge Rammstein fans,
Oh yeah,
and we saw Combi Christ in Columbus, Ohio. About
nice.
that was actually a really freaking cool show. We had never listened to him, but we were in town. It's like, we're gonna go catch this, and we had a freaking blast. And it kind of had that heavy synth and electronic metal mix, and yeah, we were freaking dancing all night long and having a blast. So I do like the mixtures of the two. I like it separate. It's kind of like I say, it all makes people come together and dance and celebrate and
Yeah,
get through this thing we call life, I guess.
yeah. I got a huge soft spot for industrial metal for sure. Industrial synth metal, Ramstein and Combi Christ. Oh, there was another one that came to mind, but
Nine Inch Nails, Ministry, stuff like that.
Ministry. Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say Ministry.
Just
Yeah,
listening to that to the other day, mine's a terrible thing to taste, and it's like, oh my
yeah.
God. So yeah, there's I actually we don't need to keep this one, but I had a buddy back in the late 80s and early 90s who was doing raves, hosting raves and bringing over DJs from Europe and shit. I did a couple security gigs for him.
Nice.
That was like back in the old days where you had to like call a pager and the pager for another number and da 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 da, to get directions or wherever for the rave would be out in the middle of the woods and stuff back in the old days.
I
So
hope we go
it
back
was
to
kind of
that one
cool.
day.
Yeah, I didn't dive a whole lot into it, but I was definitely there for it. I was a young man, so it was kind of cool. I will say though, Maine, it's I make fun of Maine sometimes. Like I say, the northern and the southern half. Maine is a huge state. It has a wide variety of music. 'Cause like you say, the South has all sorts of. Southern Maine has all sorts of different styles. But you go to northern Maine, and it's a completely different world because you'll have more. And Veronica, you might be able to help me out with this. You have the French Canadian music styles up there. You have the Canadian music styles and stuff that kind of influence up the northern half of Maine. It is actually seems to be quite different than the southern half. I could be wrong on that. Been away for a couple years. Have you seen anything come from the north yet, or is it still kind of its own separate little thing right now?
The bassist of my band actually lives out there, and I don't see him very often. It's like a 6-hour drive from
Yep,
his
it is.
place to most places we play at. Hey, Northerners, if you're watching this, like invite me to a show. I'll play your house just to see what's going on up there.
Actually, it wasn't quite electronic. It was a husband-wife couple that played. They're from Maine. What was their name? We saw them.
Great. Now we're going to have to put that in, and I can't think of it at the moment. Oh, Crunkwitch.
Crunkwitch.
Oh, yeah. I've heard about those folks. I've listened to their music
Yeah.
before. Yeah,
They had played the SWSX festival. I hope I got that
South
right.
by Southwest. Yep.
Yeah, South by Southwest festival there. So it was kind of cool. That was kind of it all kind of danced around. It was electronic. It was different.
So anytime a college town is available, you'll have bands like yours pop up. So you mentioned Farmington. That's part of it. So any audience member who's also looking for that underground or that techno or the EMD or any of that, check out the colleges. They have billboards and things that, kind of post things like that to say, hey, come on
oh,
out.
for sure. Yeah. What the college, anywhere there's a college, you got to look out for the flyers and the little rare
Oh,
stuff
absolutely.
happening. The
That,
Why
one
is the
thing,
flyer thing still going? I love the old school feeling of flyers. We're doing that for our show, passing out flyers and stuff.
oh yeah,
That's the
flyers will
easiest way
never
to.
die.
Yeah.
They'll never die. Like they'll die when the music scene dies, and that's not ever gonna happen. So, but the one show, circling back to music in the north, the one time I saw music in northern Maine, like way up there, was right by the border. I don't remember what town I was in, but I was a little kid, and my parents are blues musicians, so I went around a lot to shows of them growing up, and that was kind of like early exposure to like the lifestyle of musicianry and driving all the time and being up late constantly. And um, so I was always cruising around with the parents, and I remember they took me up to like a parade that was going on up there, and a band called Matt and the Barnburners played. I think it was his campground, actually, the front man of that band.
Nice.
Oh
And
wow.
that was just like some weird little like Trailer Park Boys-esque like community event. And
We do a lot of that up there. Yeah.
that's like all I can think of. But it was rocking though. It was a party. They
I
they
will t
definitely party up there. I can
Oh,
tell you
they well,
that.
they get going. Oh yeah, it's definitely you go up some of those small towns up there and a good band hits. It doesn't even matter what type of music. It was actually very cool to talk to you and learn about the what's been going on in Maine, how it's grown. Because I've seen it growing over the years. I was there for 20 years, and music scene. When I first got there was kind of every once in a while Portland would get some cool shows, and ever since I moved, there's like been like 100 shows I've wanted to go to. Most of them are all down in Portland and stuff. And I like a lot of the jam bands. So, you get a lot of jam bands from Vermont and stuff come over and play, and it's just like every time I still get notices on shows, musicians come. There's like something every week, and that is so great to see.
Right on.
So I appreciate what you're doing for the music scene there in Maine, and it's been a pleasure talking to you today. We'll give you a chance to have any last words or anything you want to say.
I guess can I do a quick shout out
Absolutely.
to like a small list of folks?
Go for it.
It's, if you're interested in Maine music, check out Goiter, check out Spriggan, check out Molkromatic, check out my DJ homies, Cyber Giga, Kitten Mittens, Forfex. Oh, geez, I don't want to leave anyone out. Maddie, um, the Northampton crew, Clock Serum, Ice Rasta, some other Portland DJs, DJ Interior Semiotics, um, all the fools out there making music in Maine, keeping it alive. Peace.
With that, thank you for your time. And we're going to end this with peace, love, and mosh pits.